Morning at the Griffin house was always a strange symphony, the alarm clock buzzing, dishes clattering, and Peter both singing and snorting milk out of his nose because he laughed at his own joke. Lois busied herself cleaning up the breakfast table, while Meg nervously reviewed the rules for her driving test. Chris, as usual, was eating cereal while staring at an empty box, convinced it was some kind of mini TV. Meanwhile, Stewie sat in his high chair, chewing a cookie and mumbling like a dictator plotting world domination. "Peter, don't forget to take Meg out for her driving practice today," Lois reminded him, wiping the table but keeping one eye fixed on her husband, because if she looked away for too long, he might just wrap the curtain around his neck for fun. Peter puffed up his cheeks and frowned. "Well, Lois, driving is a survival skill. And who better to teach survival than a man who once fell asleep at the wheel and still managed to pass 3 toll booths?" Meg sighed, trying hard to stay calm. "Dad, I just need to pass the test. I don't need to learn how to cause accidents." The whole family laughed, except Peter, who nodded proudly as if he'd just been praised. Stewie hurled his cookie at the wall and cackled darkly. "Let her learn. With one wrong press of the gas pedal, civilization will collapse. Perfect." Lois gave her baby a tired look. "Sweetheart, Mommy knows you're plotting something, but at least let your sister get her license first, okay?" The driving practice began. Peter sat in the passenger seat with a giant bag of chips, while Meg gripped the wheel like it was a nuclear bomb. The car hadn't even started, and Peter was already lecturing. "Listen, Meg, the key to driving is confidence. When you're confident, nobody dares cut you off. And if they do, just yell at them. 'Hey, I've got insurance.'" Meg muttered, "I'm pretty sure that's not how it works, Dad." Peter leaned back, stuffing chips into his mouth. "Trust me. Once, I drove the wrong way down the highway. The cops stopped me, but I told them, 'Hey, there are hundreds of people going the wrong way. Why pick on me?' And they had nothing to say." Meg took a deep breath, started the engine, and the car roared to life. Peter shouted like he was watching football. "Yeah, it's alive. Meg, you've given life to this metal beast." She eased the car out of the driveway, only for Peter to suddenly scream, "Meg, stop! Stop right now! A squirrel!" Meg slammed the brakes, both of them jerking forward. Outside the windshield, the squirrel casually chewed on an acorn, completely unbothered. "Dad, it's like 10 feet away!" Meg snapped. Peter nodded gravely. "You don't understand. I've had a vendetta with a squirrel since 1987. After a few laps around the neighborhood, Meg was starting to get the hang of it, but Peter kept interrupting. "Remember to signal." "No, not the headlights. Wipers. The wipers, right. The wipers? Oh, wait. Wrong lever." "Dad, please let me focus," Meg groaned. Peter patted her shoulder proudly. Good. You've got potential. Just remember my golden rule. If you don't know the law, then the law doesn't know you." Meg frowned. "I'm almost certain that's not true." Peter waved her off. "Trust me, once I parked in front of a fire hydrant. The cop said, 'You can't park there,' and I said, 'Then why'd you put a space there?' Boom, speechless." Meg shook her head and drove on, trying to block him out. The ride went smoothly for a few minutes, until Peter pulled out a massive sandwich, waving it around. "Hey Meg, look, that's the place where I ate 12 burgers once. They put my picture on the wall and called me the cholesterol hero." Meg clenched her teeth. "Dad, please don't distract me." At that exact moment, Peter spilled his soda onto the floor. He bent down to grab it, still talking. "Lesson number 2, Meg, never abandon your soda. One spill and your car will smell forever." And in that brief distraction, crash! The car plowed straight into Quahog's giant TV transmission tower. It shook violently, then toppled over in dramatic slow motion like a bad action movie stunt. The entire town instantly lost their television signal. Screens went black mid-show. An old man watching a sports game screamed, "No! That was the winning shot! Who the hell?" Back at the crash site, Meg sat frozen in horror while Peter calmly finished chewing his sandwich. "Well, at least you stopped the car properly. Crashing into something huge is the surest way to stop." "Dad, we just made the whole town lose TV," Meg stammered. Peter shrugged, forcing a smile. People should spend more time outdoors anyway. TV just makes folks lazy. Trust me, they'll thank us for this later." Cut to, across town, people were howling like the world had ended. A woman hurled her TV out the window and sobbed, "I didn't even finish my Korean drama." And so the chaos began. Meg and Peter's little accident had thrown all of Quahog into crisis. No television, no entertainment, and far more trouble than they ever imagined. Quahog after the crash looked like the apocalypse. People were panicking, rushing into the streets as if the water supply had been cut. Except this time, they carried TV remotes instead of buckets. Everyone screamed as though they'd lost the most precious thing in their lives. An old man with white hair and a red face waved his cane and yelled, "Give me my TV back! I've never missed an episode of Alien Love Disc in my life, and tonight's the finale." Nearby, a kid bawled on the sidewalk, rolling around. "My Pokemon hasn't evolved yet. Who's going to teach me how to live?" A middle-aged woman stomped through the market, groaning. "No TV? Who am I supposed to talk to at night? My husband. I'd rather listen to commercials." The entire town was in chaos. Back at the Griffin house, Peter tried to act like it had nothing to do with him. He sat on the couch munching a chicken leg, putting on his best, nonchalant face. "You know, losing TV might be good for us. We can enjoy nature, breathe fresh air. Maybe people will finally realize, hey, there's a moon out there." Meg wrung her hands, terrified. "Dad, we have to tell the truth. I was driving, but you told me to floor it. What if the cops investigate?" Peter waved her off. "Relax, Meg. In America, all you need is one good hamburger and people forget everything. Trust me, by tomorrow, nobody will even remember this." Right then, the town news broadcast aired on a blank screen. A man jogged through the streets with a megaphone, shouting, "Breaking news! Quahog has officially lost TV. Someone has destroyed the broadcast tower, and the police are hunting down the culprit. Citizens are advised to find their own entertainment." The Griffins all turned to look at Peter. He stuffed the rest of the chicken leg in his mouth and forced a laugh. Wasn't us? Probably. Squirrels. Yeah, one of those vengeful squirrels from '87. They're back, and this time, it's personal." Meanwhile, Meg prepared for her official driving test. Lois comforted her. "Don't worry, honey. Everyone makes mistakes when they're learning. The important thing is that you keep trying." "But Mom," Meg sighed, "the whole town hates whoever knocked out TV. If they find out it was me." Lois patted her shoulder. "Then maybe they'll throw tomatoes, but I'll stand in front of you." Stewie cackled from his playpen. Yes, leave it as it is. The more chaos, the better for my plans. Humanity will grow so desperate they'll beg for a new leader, me." Meg glared. "You're a baby. You don't have a plan." Stewie puffed out his chest, waving like Napoleon. "Silence, mortal. When the world is broken, they will come to me. The age of Stewie shall rise." Lois sighed. "Sweetheart, finish your porridge before it gets cold." Test day arrived. Meg nervously climbed into the car with her examiner, a grumpy, pot-bellied man who looked like he'd just lost a lottery jackpot. "All right, Meg," he growled, "show me your skills. One mistake, and you fail." Peter, of course, had wedged himself into the back seat, munching popcorn and cheering. "Go, Meg. Remember the golden rule. Never look in the rearview mirror. The past doesn't matter." The examiner glared at him. "Why are you here?" "I'm her spiritual coach," Peter said with a grin, "and snack sponsor." Meg steadied herself and started the car. Things went fine until they reached an intersection. "Meg, squirrel! Squirrel!" Peter screamed. Meg panicked, swerving so hard the car nearly jumped the curb. The examiner shrieked, "Dear God, are you trying to kill me?" Yeah, but there was a squirrel," Peter said seriously. Meg tried to calm down, but the mistakes piled up. Wrong signal, failed to yield, and then, bam! She slammed straight into a fast food billboard. "That's it," the examiner roared. "You fail. I'd rather walk everywhere for the rest of my life than ride with you for another minute." Meg's face dropped, devastated. Peter leaned forward to console her in his unique logic. "Aw, come on, Meg. Failing is normal. I failed 17 times before I got my license. And to this day, I'm convinced the examiners were bribed." Meanwhile, the town was unraveling further without TV. People gathered in the park to recreate shows by imagination. One man with a megaphone shouted fake football commentary, while others cheered like it was the Super Bowl. A group of teens staged commercials. "Did you know? Our new toothpaste makes your teeth so white, your neighbors will sue you for blinding them." The crowd roared with applause like it was the Oscars. Back at the Griffin house, Brian sipped wine, shaking his head. "Peter, don't you see how bad this is? Without TV, people in Quahog might start thinking. And trust me, that's the most dangerous thing possible." What's so bad about thinking? Peter asked, scratching his head. I think all the time. Brian arched a brow. Really? What's the last thing you thought about? Peter was silent for a long moment, then said proudly, if I put pizza inside bread, is that a sandwich or another pizza? Brian sighed and poured himself another glass. That evening, Meg sulked in her room, crying over her failed test. Lois slipped in and sat beside her. It's okay, honey. Everyone makes mistakes. The important thing is that you tried. But Mom, Meg sobbed, the whole town lost TV because of me. And now I failed my driving test. I'm a total disaster. Lois hugged her gently. No, sweetheart. If anyone's a disaster, it's your father. You're just unlucky. Out in the living room, Peter suddenly shouted, Hey, Lois! You seen my cheeseburger-shaped pillow? I think it ran away. Everyone in the house groaned in unison. Things were only getting messier. Meg drowning in self-doubt, townsfolk descending into madness, and Peter blissfully clueless. And of course, the chaos was just beginning. That night, while the Griffins tried to adjust to life without television, Stewie sat in his crib, eyes glowing like high beams. He pulled out a messy blueprint covered in wires, switches, and a doodle of a TV exploding. Ha ha ha! Fate smiles upon me. With television gone, humans descend into chaos. This is my golden opportunity. Once I destroy the backup antenna, nothing will stop me from conquering the world. He cackled maniacally, but with a pacifier still in his mouth, it came out more like, her. Brian, sprawled on the couch with a glass of wine, looked over wearily. Stewie, most toddlers play with Legos, not weapons of mass destruction. Freud would have a field day with you. Stewie sneered. Silence, Canine, or you'll be the first test subject for my wave annihilator. Brian sipped calmly. As long as it doesn't spill my wine, do whatever you want. Meanwhile, Peter was determined to help Quahog survive without television. He organized a town meeting in the park, calling everyone together. Standing on a rickety stage with a cheap microphone, Peter declared, Folks, TV is just a glowing box. We don't need it to be happy. Instead of sitting around, let's do healthy outdoor activities. The crowd roared in protest. No TV, no life. I missed my cooking show. What's next? Reading books? Forget it. Peter held up his hands. Calm down, people. I've got alternatives. He pulled out a long list. Stare at the wall and imagine you're watching a movie. Let your dog play the cartoon characters, or listen to me recite every episode of Knight Rider from memory. The crowd groaned in horror. No, no, no. But Peter plowed on enthusiastically, so Michael Knight gets into his talking car and a cranky old man hurled a sandal at him. Shut up! I'd rather listen to detergent commercials. Undeterred, Peter tried homegrown TV in his backyard. First, he staged a one-man play by wrapping himself in a bedsheet, pretending to be a ghost, and narrating the man who lost his remote. Chris clapped and laughed hysterically. Meg rolled her eyes. Dad, this isn't funny. You don't understand art, Meg, Peter insisted. This is dark comedy. The sheet represents the loss of television. Lois crossed her arms. Peter, if you're going to wear the bed linens all week, at least wash them first. For experiment number 2, Peter turned the backyard into live television. He built a giant cardboard TV frame and forced the family to stand inside it. Welcome to Griffin News, he bellowed. Top story, I'm still hungry. Chris jumped in as the sports anchor. In today's sports news, I just ate 3 sandwiches in a row. World record. Lois groaned. Peter, the neighbors are staring. Sure enough, Mort walked by, shook his head and muttered, well, at least it's better than whoever knocked down the tower. Wait, who did that again? Peter's forehead dripped sweat. Aliens. Yeah, aliens did it. Stewie overheard, chuckling darkly. Aliens indeed, and just in time, for I shall be their new overlord. Back in his room, Stewie unveiled his invention, the Wave Destroyer 3000. It was a hodgepodge of wires, toy dinosaurs, and a baby bottle. This will be my masterpiece. With one push of a button, every broadcast wave will be obliterated. CNN, goodbye forever. Brian glanced up, unimpressed. That looks more like a toaster than a death ray. Mock me all you want, Stewie snapped. I'll start with toast, then move on to world domination. Meanwhile, Peter attempted community entertainment by leading an outdoor aerobics class. Wearing pink tights and a cheeseburger t-shirt, he boogied to disco in the town square. Come on, everybody, dance! Feel the rhythm instead of TV. The crowd just stared at him like he was an alien. One woman muttered, TV may be bad, but this is worse. Peter flailed through a few more moves, sweating buckets, then collapsed on the pavement. Okay, maybe we do need TV. Meg, still gloomy, wrote in her diary. Day 2 without television. The town is insane, and I'm still a failure. Lois peeked in, smiling gently. Meg, don't be so hard on yourself. Look at your father. Failure is his specialty, and he still manages to be happy. From outside, Peter shouted proudly. Yeah, Lois, I heard that. Totally agree. Ugh. Meg cracked a faint smile but sighed again. Late that night, Stewie dragged his contraption into the backyard. The machine whirred, lights flashing. Behold world! Tremble before the might of Stewie Griffin, he cried. But instead of destroying anything, the machine beeped and popped out 2 perfectly toasted slices of bread. Brian burst out laughing. Well, hey, at least breakfast is ready. Stewie fumed, shaking his fists. Curses! Another setback! But I shall return! Next time, television will kneel before me. Brian sipped his wine with a smirk. I'm starting to enjoy these little failures. Free barbecue every time. Meanwhile, Quahog's people grew more desperate. Peter kept pushing TV alternatives, but nothing stuck. And in the shadows, Stewie sharpened his schemes for round 2. The next morning, Quahog entered its 3rd day without TV. The townsfolk were gathered in the square, faces twisted in misery like they'd been cut off from Wi-Fi. Mayor West stood on a podium, waving his arms dramatically. Citizens of Quahog, we are in a state of emergency. Without television, we risk losing our sense of direction, our purpose, and worst of all, we may forget the exact airtime of laundry detergent commercials. But fear not, I vow to find the criminal behind this atrocity. The crowd roared, Catch him! Bring back TV. Without it, I don't even know what to eat for dinner. An elderly woman clutched her remote and sobbed. My son hasn't looked away from the screen in 30 years. Now he looks at me, and I can't handle that. Officer Joe in his wheelchair spoke firmly. We found evidence at the scene, burger grease and a spilled soda can. The crowd turned as one, staring straight at Peter, who was hiding in the back. Peter swallowed hard and stammered, maybe it was Ronald McDonald. Think about it. Guy's always grinning. Very suspicious. Brian muttered, Peter, you're a master of denial. Back home, Lois confronted him. Peter, this can't go on. If the police connect you and Meg to this, we'll all be in trouble. Peter argued. But Lois, if we confess, the whole town will hate us forever. If we keep quiet, maybe they'll blame, I don't know, natural disasters? Or maybe a dinosaur wandered through? Meg sat silently, tears in her eyes. Mom, it's my fault. I was driving. I caused it. Lois quickly hugged her. No, Meg, it's your father's fault. You were just the victim. Peter butted in. Victim of a priceless driving lesson. Meg, you should be proud. You've experienced a real accident before the test. Meg shrieked, Dad, a real accident isn't an experience. It's a real accident. While the family argued, Stewie was busy perfecting his second invention, the Wave Destroyer 6000. This one was twice as big, with tangled wires, blinking lights, and even a borrowed pressure cooker from the neighbors. Stewie laughed wickedly. Ha! Last time was just the beginning. This time I'll annihilate every remaining signal. Humanity will collapse, and they will hail me as their savior. Brian flipped through a newspaper without looking up. You realize if you kill all TV, people might start reading books? And once they get smarter, you'll lose your shot at world domination. Stewie froze, horrified. Books? Revolting. Fine, I'll let television return, but under my control. Brian smirked. Oh, so you want to be a media mogul? Rupert Murdoch better watch out. Meanwhile, Peter decided to prove his innocence by helping the police. At the station, he sat across from Joe with a pencil, acting serious. All right, Joe, let me draw a sketch of the suspect. He's about 6 feet tall, brown hair, kind of round in the belly, loves hamburgers, and his name starts with P. Joe narrowed his eyes. Peter, that's you. Peter crumpled the paper nervously. No, I meant some other guy. Just a coincidence. Later, Peter launched a Find the Culprit campaign at the Drunken Clam. He plastered posters everywhere. Tower Saboteur, reward $50 and a pizza coupon. Quagmire, Cleveland and Joe exchanged skeptical looks. Quagmire squinted. Peter, you sure you don't know anything? 'Cause you've still got ketchup on your chin. Peter licked his face frantically. Hey, everybody eats hamburgers. National pastime, baby. Out in Quahog, people were hitting rock bottom. Without TV, they invented bizarre substitutes. A group of teens chalked rectangles on walls and stared at them like screens. One man set up a lawn chair by the road, commentating on passing cars as if it were an action movie. "Look at that red sedan overtake the truck. Oh ho, edge of your seat. We'll be right back after these messages." Elsewhere, folks set up makeshift theaters, projecting their own shadows as cartoons. Kids laughed. Adults laughed too, because frankly, there was nothing else to do. That night, Stewie rolled out the Wave Destroyer 6000 into the backyard. The machine hummed, lights glowing ominously. "Behold, the world shall bow before Stewie Griffin," he shouted, slamming the switch. The device rumbled, sparked, and then exploded in a puff of smoke. The blast singed all the laundry Lois had hung out to dry. Peter rushed out screaming, "Who torched my lucky boxer shorts?" Stewie coughed, covered in soot, fuming. "Blast! Another failure. But mark my words, third time's the charm." Brian sipped his wine and smirked. "You know, I'm starting to look forward to these explosions. Free barbecue every time." Meanwhile, Peter cooked up another brilliant plan. Create a scapegoat. He stuffed old clothes onto a scarecrow, slapped on a paper sign, "Tower Saboteur, name Patty Griffin." Dragging the dummy through town, Peter yelled, "I got him! Here's the culprit! His name's Patty, not Peter!" The townsfolk squinted. One man scratched his head. Why does he look exactly like you?" "Coincidence," Peter insisted. "Lots of guys out there with brown hair and a belly like this." The crowd roared angrily, charging at him. Peter bolted, flailing his arms. "Hey, I'm just trying to help." Back home, Lois scolded. "Peter, the more you cover it up, the more obvious it gets. Eventually, everyone will know." Peter slumped into the couch, defeated. "Yeah, maybe you're right, but if they find out, they'll hate me." Brian leaned in. "Peter, the people of Quahog have hated you for years. This won't change a thing." Peter thought about it, then brightened. "Yeah, that's actually true." Tensions in town rose higher. Stewie prepared for his third and final attempt, and Peter and Meg faced the risk of exposure. The finale was looming, loud, chaotic, and every bit as ridiculous as expected. By the fourth day without TV, Quahog was on the brink of collapse. People wandered the streets like zombies, mumbling, "Sitcoms? Commercials? I need my sitcoms." An old man sat in the middle of the road, hugging his remote and crying. "I haven't missed a game show in 30 years. Now I don't even know who the richest man in town is." Officer Joe rolled by in his wheelchair, announcing, "We've narrowed it down. Based on the evidence, the culprit is very likely someone from the Griffin family." The crowd gasped and turned toward the Griffin's house. Peter panicked. No way it's us. It was probably the Simpsons." "Yeah, those cartoon freaks are super suspicious." Brian sighed. "Sure, Peter. Yeah, the whole town will totally buy that." Inside, Lois faced him sternly. "Peter, enough. We have to come clean. You and Meg caused this, and the longer you hide it, the worse it'll get." Peter lowered his head with a rare moment of honesty. "Lois, I didn't want the whole town to hate me. I just wanted to be a good dad, teach my daughter to drive. Things got out of hand." Meg sat silently, tears streaming. "Mom, it's my fault. I was driving. I wrecked everything." Peter quickly turned to her. "No, Meg, it was my fault. I distracted you. I messed it all up. You're not to blame." Meg blinked in shock. "Dad, you mean that?" Peter nodded seriously. "Yeah, and now it's time I own up." That night, the Griffins walked into the town square where everyone had gathered. Mayor West raised his arms. "Citizens, tonight we unmask the villain." Peter stepped forward, raising his hand. "It was me. I crashed into the tower while teaching my daughter to drive. I screwed up. I'm sorry." The crowd buzzed. Someone shouted, "Get him!" Peter squeezed his eyes shut, bracing for a wave of tomatoes, but instead an old man staggered forward, yelling, "Wait, I've realized something worse than no TV. It's talking to my wife 4 days straight." The crowd erupted in laughter. A woman added, "Yeah, I had to listen to my husband's fishing stories for hours. Please, bring back TV." Instead of attacking, people broke into chants. "Bring back TV! Bring back TV!" Peter peeked one eye open, confused. "So you guys don't hate me?" A man patted his shoulder. "You're an idiot, but at least you told the truth. And honestly, we're too desperate to stay mad." While townsfolk discussed fixing the tower, Stewie rolled out his ultimate invention, the universal wave controller. It was massive, glowing, and had poor Rupert strapped in as a power source. "At last! Not only will I destroy TV, I will control every channel." You'll all watch my programming. Brian yawned. $10 says it explodes again in 10 seconds. No, this time it's flawless, Stewie snapped. Behold. He flipped the switch. The machine blasted light, and suddenly every TV in Quahog flickered back on. People cheered in ecstasy. TV is back! Thank God, we're saved! Peter jumped up and down. Yay, my favorite program's back. 30-second sausage commercials on repeat. Lois sighed with relief. Finally, it's over. Meg smiled faintly. At least nobody hates us anymore. But then Stewie's evil laugh boomed across every screen. Ha ha ha, you fools! TV isn't back, it's mine. From now on, you'll only watch Stewie News. Every TV in town switched to a feed of Stewie wearing a plastic crown and red cape, declaring, Greetings, mortals. Today's top story. I am your supreme ruler. Forecast showers of tears from my enemies. The townspeople stared and then burst out laughing. Oh my God, it's a baby, one man chuckled. He's adorable, a woman squealed. I just want to pinch his cheeks. Stewie froze, horrified. What? No, I'm terrifying, not cute. Brian clinked his wineglass, smirking. Told you, you're too small to scare anyone. But hey, you brought TV back. Good job, kid. Stewie stomped in fury. No, this is my most humiliating defeat. The story closed with the Griffins gathered around their TV once again, sighing with relief. Peter munched happily. See, Lois, losing TV wasn't so bad. We survived just fine. Lois crossed her arms and glared. Peter, I aged 10 years in 4 days. Chris cheered. Yay, my favorite cartoon's back. Meg smiled softly. Maybe it wasn't all that terrible. In his crib, Stewie scowled, muttering, They laugh now, but one day I'll return, and no one will dare call me cute again. Ha ha ha. Brian raised his empty glass. Sure thing, Prince Pampers. Laughter filled the room as the screen faded out, closing another day of chaos, Family Guy style.